June 13th regular board meeting for the Village of Indian Head Park. Can we have a roll call, please, clerk?
Trustee Saldana? Here. Trustee Eck?
Present.
Trustee Gazis?
Here.
Trustee O'Laughlin? Trustee Donnersberger?
Here.
Trustee Zvetka? So there's a quorum.
Great, thank you. Can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I am going to have a fairly short mayor's report with no graphics tonight, so I would like to update you on some things that I'm very proud about in our village and about some people that I'm very proud about. And I don't want to steal Gavin's thunder this evening, but we have had a recent rash of grant success. So I wanted you all to know what has happened, and it certainly isn't because I have done any of this work. It's because our staff is really empowered to look at grants, evaluate grants, and then do the work that it takes to put in for grants. And it is a lot of work, and I want you to know very quickly, our police department has received an AED grant for $3,000, a body-worn camera grant for $10,000. We have recently just put in for a COPS Department of Justice police grant for an elderly services officer for $125,000. We have also received a ComEd high-efficiency lighting grant for all facilities for $25,000. That's why you see the lights are much brighter in here, because they've all been replaced with high-efficiency LED lighting. The same thing with Public Works and their salt dome as well. We also just received word from CMAP this week that we were awarded the CMAP Pavement Management Grant for $10,000. We are also in the throes, one more that we received too, is a Lyons Township Mental Health Commission $25,000 for elderly services. So one of our focuses in the village right now is elderly services. We have an elderly services officer, and we also received a grant for almost $8,000 to host monthly congregate lunches in Indian Head Park. So we will be having a monthly senior lunch. We will have to include both Indian Head Park seniors and other communities that may wish to join us for lunch for 50 people. At those lunches for the next year, we will have 6 sort of entertainment fun type of lunches, and 6 of the lunches will be more educational, that will be a range of topics that will be helping our seniors understand what's going on in health and wellness, safety, security, and all of the things that may be of interest to our elder community. So we are so happy that we got that grant from the Lyons Township Mental Health Commission for $25K, and then the congregate lunch grant from Aging Care Connections. So you will all be receiving information about that. We are going to have a kickoff appetizer drink little event in June to sort of let everyone know what's going on with those events. So this is all about getting everybody together. We know after COVID, a lot of people became very isolated, and we are trying to get our community to come together, gather, and eat together in a luncheon setting. So we appreciate that. Update on Wolf Road. Wolf Road redesign. CAC meeting number 2 will be held in mid-July. That will be the meeting of the CAC, which there are approximately 35 members of the community on that, including different organizations like our schools and fire department, and as well as some residents. And public meeting number 2 will be scheduled for sometime in August for Wolf Road, and we will let you all know when that happens. One neat thing is that we are going to be able to include a tree audit on all of our maps that will be shown to the public and to the CAC. So in previous In the previous project, we did not have a tree audit, and we weren't having our trees mapped to see what the impact of the roadway and sidewalks or multi-use paths would be on our tree population. And now, thanks to Thomas Brannon, we have all of those trees that have been mapped by size and location, and we also know what species they are as well. So now those digital maps, we call them GIS maps, will include our tree audit, which we are very thrilled about, and thank him very much. That is the end of my report. Thank you. Can I have a motion, please, for the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I would like to ask that item B, the issue on the village treasurer, be taken out of the consent agenda and discussed separately.
Is that, do I need another motion for that, or is that a motion? Do we need a second?
No, you don't need a motion, just remove it.
Okay.
The motion on the table would be to approve items A and C.
Okay, can I have a motion, please, to approve items A through C?
I amend my motion to now approve consent agenda with only items A, approval of regular meeting minutes of May 9, 2024, and C, appointing Andres Beltran as an alternate delegate to Irma.
Second.
Alrighty. Can we have a roll call vote?
Trustee Donnersberger,
Aye.
Trustee Eck,
Aye.
Trustee Gazis,
Aye.
Trustee Saldana.
Aye.
4-0, motion carries.
Great, thank you. Should we put on the table now the motion? Alrighty. Do we need a motion for item B then?
We do.
Could I have a motion for item B to discuss appointing Gavin Morgan as village treasurer?
I make a motion to approve appointing Gavin Morgan as village treasurer.
Is there a discussion?
You need-
Second?
Second.
Okay, discussion on this item.
Yes, I have a question in regards to village treasurer. We had a village treasurer who was not a staff member nor a member of the Board of Trustees previously. What are the requirements for village treasurer then?
As far as an elected treasurer, they're required to be a resident of Indian Head Park. That's as much as I know. I will say that the previous treasurer was Arhelia Garbash, and with her retirement, we need to replace her with a new treasurer, and I was the next best thing.
I think we may have some other candidates for that. I think there's some people in the Finance Committee that may have an interest in participating with that, and would suggest that we, unless there's an immediate need, we defer the motion until the next meeting.
Is there an immediate need?
I don't know that there's an immediate need, so the authority of the treasurer is limited to collecting payments. And currently we collect payments at the front office staff, or the finance department collects revenues from other sources, and the finance department is completely responsible for accounting for those payments. So I don't, from my perspective, it's not necessary to have a treasurer, other than we need one. We need to have a treasurer, and that's as far as I understand, that's a requirement of the statutes, state statutes, and you know, the treasurer does sign some documents, like the annual treasurer's report, which is produced by the finance staff, and the treasurer in addition to the village president signing for the debt certificates that were recently issued, the treasurer also signed those. And as far as I know, that's the limit of what the treasurer is for and what the treasurer does. So
What about the levy?
I don't know that the treasurer signs that or approves
Receives
that.
it.
Well, yes, it's part of what I was saying, you know, we receive that through Illinois fund. It comes directly to us without any action on behalf of staff, other than, you know, I submit the levy, the annual levy after it's approved by the board, and then the money is automatically deposited into our account. It's accounted for by the finance staff. So most of the functions of the treasurer are performed by the finance staff.
So does the treasurer oversee the finance staff, or are they separate?
They're separate. They're separate. Currently, you know, we just switched from, with Arhelia's retirement, we just switched to outsourcing our finance functions. So the finance team from Lauterbach and Amen reports directly to me, and then also meets with the finance committee when the finance committee meets.
Reports to you as the
As the administrator,
Is the
not as the
administrator, not as the
treasurer.
treasurer.
Because I'm not the treasurer yet,
But if you
or I
became the
may never
treasurer,
become the treasurer.
You know, if we need one immediately, then I would withdraw an objection, if you don't mind seeing if we do have somebody else that would like to be treasurer on a full-time basis, or to be the village treasurer. Prior to Helia, we had someone from Ashbrook who was not a board member or an employee. She was treasurer. What was her name again?
Maureen Garcia.
Yeah, and she was treasurer for several years, and she came to the meetings and made a very quick treasurer's report, if anything at all. And you'd mentioned a couple things that need to be signed, you know, and I take it Helia signed the bonds as treasurer before she left?
Yes, she did.
Yeah. Okay.
She just didn't
So,
pay them.
Madam President, if it's your view, we need to have someone immediately, and you don't mind the opportunity to look for possibly somebody else, then I would withdraw my objections. Otherwise, I would suggest that we hold off.
so Charlie, I have a question. What would be the purpose of having somebody else? To take some of the work off of Gavin's plate, or to have a separation of,
Separation,
okay.
yeah.
What I would prefer to do at this point, just to make things a little bit more, what I would call convenient at this point with our transition, is to keep Gavin as the appointed treasurer, approve that tonight, and then if you would like to look for a treasurer and put that out on the website, and then review all of the people that are of interest, they would have to fill out our application. As you know from prior people submitting applications, then you'll have to have interviews and select somebody. So if you'd like to go through that process, then we could, and
Sure,
then you
good.
would
Let's do
replace
that. Let's do that.
Gavin with the treasurer that you would find appropriate, with the finance committee or whomever's going to be on that selection committee.
Fine, we can get into that detail, and we'll follow whatever those processes are.
So if we can move to the original intent then to, do we have a motion on the table to appoint Gavin as the village treasurer? We have a motion, can we, in a second, so we'll have a roll call vote then.
Trustee Donnersberger,
Aye.
Trustee Eck,
Aye?
Trustee Gazis,
Aye.
Trustee Saldana.
Aye.
4-0.
Great, thank you, that motion has passed. All righty, let's move on to new business. Can we have a new business, item A, is that the treasurer, Gavin?
We need a motion in a second.
Can I have a motion in a second, please, for new business, item A?
I make a motion to approve payables for the period ending May 31st, 2024.
Second.
And the payables were on the cash requirements report, and as well as the May 2024 payments that look like this. And I will read, excuse me, the treasurer's report. Our cash on hand at the end of April 30th, 2024, was $2,762,666.83. Payments for May of 2024 were $937,877.04. Total revenues for May of 2024 were $2,106,095.25, making an ending bank balance at May 31st of 2024, $3,930,885.04. And just a note, this includes the money, the proceeds from the debt certificate sale.
Great, thank you. Moving on, can we have a motion for item B, please? Oh, can we have a vote, please, for that? Roll call vote.
Trustee Donnersberger,
Aye.
Trustee Eck,
Aye.
Trustee Gazis,
Aye.
Trustee Saldana.
Aye.
4-0, the motion carries.
I do have a question. With the proceeds, we invested that at a rate of about 5.5%, or is that about right?
Yes, sir.
And we're paying roughly less than 3.5% for the bonds?
Yes, the all-inclusive cost is about less than 4.5%, but that's all-inclusive.
Okay. Thank you.
May I get a motion for item B, please?
I make a motion to approve the preliminary financial report, the month ending May 31st, 2024.
Second.
You already did.
I did B.
Didn't we cover that?
But A was the bills list.
Okay, so we just did the approval of the preliminary financial report. That's what Gavin just reported. Do you need to do anything with the approval of payables for the period?
I believe you all approved those.
Okay. So do we need to amend the motion?
No.
Okay. Then we'll move on to item C. Can I please, no.
We need to vote on the motion to vote on B.
Okay, then let's vote on the motion for item B, please.
Trustee Donnersberger. Trustee Eck,
Aye.
Trustee Gazis,
Aye.
and Trustee Saldana.
Aye.
4-0, motion carries.
I jumped the gun on the financial.
That's okay. All righty, we are on item C. Can we have a motion for item C, please?
I would like to put on the table for discussion the electric aggregation program.
Second.
Gavin?
Sharon Durling from the Illinois Aggregation Consultants firm is here to talk to us about renewing our green electric aggregation program. And I'll hand the floor to Sharon.
Thank you, President Wittenberg and trustees. 10 years ago, the village voted to pass an electric aggregation referendum in the village. At the initial programs, I think there were some significant savings for residents. I only began working with the village 3 years ago because we developed a program wherein there would be zero rate risk. And that's important because in some of the later programs, they were a little upside down and underwater. So you did 3 years ago set up an electric aggregation program that was set at exactly the ComEd rate to the thousandth of a penny per kilowatt hour. It's quite successful. I think residents, there's a pretty high participation level in there. The village received green energy and about $18,000 annual, we'll call it a grant, but a civic contribution that could be used for any purpose. And that expired at the end of May. So I'm happy to respond to any questions about that and how it went over the last 3 years. The question before you is, would you like us to go out to receive competitive bids? And you can resume that program again at the ComEd price match program that we've done to about 60 or 80 other municipalities in Illinois. Residents can opt out. They may be enrolled at the ComEd rate with the supplier. And then there's a civic contribution or green energy that can be chosen. So I see a furrowed brow. I'm happy to respond to questions.
Can we?
Trustee
Yeah.
Eck?
Yeah, the source of the electricity, is that any different than what ComEd obtains, then delivers to us on a regular basis?
Great question, trustee. So what comes through the electric outlets, say even here in your home, it's the same electricity, but your electricity is offset by renewable energy certificates. I have a link to a video, but what renewable energy certificates are, the purchase of certificates that indicate that you have owned green energy from, say, wind farms or solar farms or hydro plants here in the Midwest. So the EPA says you can claim you own the green power. I'm quoting them.
Is this power delivered then to ComEd so they can further distribute it to the Indian Head Park residents?
It may come through our grid, but you're probably at whatever the closest generation is. But we share a massive grid with 16 other states all the way to Maryland and the East Coast. So it's a massive grid, and wherever it comes in, you can't say that this electron that came from this windmill came to your home, because once the electrons hit the grid, they're identical, whether coal or green. But this is a way, again, to quote the EPA, you can say you own the green power.
And what's the advantage to that?
Well, Indian Head Park has for the last 3 years been certified by the EPA as a EPA Green Power Partner, one of the top 100 municipalities in the USA to have that standing. So that may feel a little civic pride, or some people enjoy that. This year, alternatively, you could just continue with the standard, I'll call it brown, energy, and just receive a civic contribution for whatever the village would choose to place those monies. So it's kind of an either or.
So
facing this
I've
year.
always been confused by this. So the electricity is delivered through ComEd,
Yes.
and how does it affect the individual bills?
Zero effect to the individual bills by law. I love that question. Thank you for asking. By law, ComEd does all billing. There's only one bill. There's just on the back side of your ComEd bill, all those line items, there would be one difference. It would say the name of the supplier.
Okay.
So
But the bills, if
are
my
the
neighbor
same.
had it and I didn't, we'd have the same bill, given that we had used the same electricity.
Yes, trustee. In fact, Tinley Park was the first community I did this with 6 years ago, and they had their environmental team at their meetings, audit us. We promised the trustees, the mayor, that we would do that. And someone would pull out a ComEd bill and just to keep us honest. But of course, we have to do it that way. It's contractual with the village. The attorney would know about that.
Thank you.
Sharon, could you say a little about the benefit from a resident standpoint of having an aggregation program?
Sure. It's surprising that there are still a lot of, I'm going to say politely, sort of nefarious sales tactics out there in which residents are caught up paying, maybe starting out really cheaply, a couple months below ComEd, and then the current ComEd rate, by the way, is 6.72 cents. I've heard of 20, 30 cents per kilowatt hour. It's kind of horrific. So when we do these programs, we notice that sometimes folks will get the notice about the village program, and they have more confidence next time they get a phone call or someone knocks on your door, say, well, I'm with the village. It gives them a little confidence. But also they'll look at the bill and say, oh, what are we paying at home? And it helps folks to sometimes give a little more attention to that. There might be, sometimes we've seen maybe 20% of residents with other suppliers, and currently no other supplier really can offer any savings.
Does any revenue go to increase green electric production from this process?
It does.
How does that work?
It does. When a windmill, let's say, the wind hits it in the wind, what do you call the turbine turns? Two things are generated. The actual electron that feeds into the grid, plug in your light bulb, and then a renewable energy certificate, and those are certified. Those are overseen by the EPA, and it's the only way you can say you have green power. Even if you have solar panels at your own home, you're generating renewable energy certificates. I forgot your question. So paying for those renewable energy certificates actually traded in the open market. That money goes towards building new generation. That's how it gets done. Money helps to build more wind turbines or other green energy generation.
Are those certificates used to apply for the federal support to build the renewable energy? Is that what they're used for?
The monies,
Yeah.
yes. The
That's
money
the
goes to purchase, to pay for those. But for the benefit for an actual resident of their home, some of them feel, great, I'm doing, the village is doing this for me. It's a stand that the village can take. Or alternatively, you might just want to choose a civic contribution. Maybe there's a little something you didn't have a budget for. Could go into general fund. There's no stipulation as to use. I've seen communities use it for a park cleanup or for the garbage recyclable bins, other things that might be off budget.
And just to clarify, that civic contribution would be part of the bid if we went out.
Exactly, yes. So the question is, would you like to consider we could come back at, next month's meeting and show you actual offers, and you could vote on them, look at them, accept or decline, no obligation.
I have just a quick question. How are these providers that you would bring able to give us the same rate as ComEd when everything we hear is that these are more costly alternatives?
Yes, I slipped right by that, didn't I? I didn't intend to slip by it, but let me just say this. It's a little bit complicated, but stay with me. Electricity by law has to be available on demand all the time. That's ComEd's directive. And electricity varies immensely in cost. For example, we had a polar vortex of 2014. I remember that 10 years ago. They ended up using jet fuel in the Northeast USA just to keep generators going. That was enormously crazy expensive because there's high demand. And sometimes there's low demand, maybe an evening in April when the temperatures are 70 degrees outdoors and factories are closed, so it's very low demand. So what suppliers do is they analyze every meter, and roughly half of your residents might be costlier to serve, and the other half less costly, just based on their historical, how they use the demand. So kind of with me so far, different costs. So what they'll do is they'll send notices to everyone, and the ones that historically look like they will be profitable, that's just a business decision they're making, they would enroll those with the supplier, and those that historically have been more expensive to serve, they leave them at ComEd. So some folks will stay at ComEd. Everyone would be treated the same. How did I give questions about that?
So I have a couple questions just to help us formulate action items for our next meeting. So we have to go out for bid, correct?
You would need to seek bids to receive any offers, yes.
Okay. So maybe what we could do is we make the commitment that you would go out to bid for us, and then you would come back to the board with those bids, correct?
Exactly, yes.
You'd be able to do an overview and a matrix to show us those options?
Precisely. And no obligation to accept any, so you're not on the hook to take a look.
Okay.
And that's the staff recommendation, is that you direct.
What would be the time frame of, if we were to approve that and you going out for bid, when would you be able to present?
Is your next meeting July? Your next board meeting? It'd be about
Yes,
2-week
July.
runway. 2-week runway.
So is there consensus that we want to have the bid process? This isn't a voting item, so is that maybe thumbs up on that for next month? Are you thumbs up? Thumbs up?
Thumbs up.
Okay. Then I think you've seen the consensus here. We would like to move forward with the
Okay.
presentation next month.
I'll check in with Mr. Morgan and we'll proceed. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We are now moving on to new business item D. May I have a motion?
I make a motion to consider approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the McCook Public Library District.
Second.
This is an annual renewal of our one-year agreement with McCook. The agreement allows Village of Indian Head Park residents to get a library card from McCook Public Library District. The cost is $100 a year. If you're a college or high school student, it's $50 a year. I don't know how long we've been in this agreement with McCook, but it is an annual agreement, and it expired at the end of April, and then I was notified that we had the agreement. So.
I have a question. Does it, in some library cases, you have a library card from one library and you have reciprocity in other libraries. So just want to clarify that you go get your card with McCook and then you can use it in other libraries.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Donnersberger,
Aye.
Trustee Eck,
Aye.
Trustee Gazis,
Aye.
Trustee Saldana,
Aye.
4-0, motion carries.
Moving right along, item E, motion, please.
I make a motion to the awarding of a bid for the 2024 sanitary sewer program.
Second.
Gavin?
This is our ongoing sewer rehabilitation program. We scope the sewer system or portions of the sewer system every other year, and then in the other year we do the work. And we received 6 bids for the project. The recommendation from Thomas Engineering Group and staff is to go with the second lowest bid based on the requirements of the job and the experience of the lowest bidder. Their feeling was that the more responsible bid was the second lowest. That bid is for $102,066, and the engineer's estimate on the probable cost for this project was $147,000. So it is still significantly lower than the engineer's estimate. And if you have any specific questions, Joe Coons is here to answer those.
What geographic area in Indian Head Park does this cover?
It's not in one specific area. It's in a few different areas. Go ahead, Joe. Your guess is better.
Various point repairs and some lining. I can get you some details on that and email it over to you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the sanitary sewer program? Besides Trustee Eck's question, which we will get you an email on. If there are none, can we please have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Donnersberger,
Aye.
Trustee Eck,
Aye.
Trustee Gazis,
Aye.
Trustee Saldana,
Aye.
4-0, motion carries.
Moving right along to item F. May we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-10, the surrender of liquor license for Capri to Go.
Second.
Gavin?
Okay, this and the next ordinance go hand in hand, but we'll take one at a time. The Driftwood Lounge and Capri to Go have been sold to new owners, and they've applied for a liquor license for the former Driftwood Lounge. And we've gone through Staff, they applied, because the license cannot be transferred from one owner to another, they went through the full license process, which included staff doing a zoning review of the application. It is an approved use for that zone. We got additional information, including leases and the sale of, proof of the sale of the business. And we confirmed that this Arcadia Restaurant Group that has purchased the restaurant and the lounge is an incorporated business through the Illinois Secretary of State's office. And the owners of the establishment have passed a background check. Our process is we take fingerprints, we send those to the Illinois State Police, and they do a background check. And they returned their reports with no issues. So staff's recommendation is to approve a Class A liquor license to Arcadia Restaurant Group.
The motion was just for the surrender.
Sorry.
Did we want to
I
expand the
jumped the
motion?
gun again. With that recommendation, the first step is to remove the existing license so that we can then you can then vote on approving a new license, and the number of licenses in this class, Class A, will remain the same in the village.
Let's move to take the item F first. Can we have a roll call vote? Move forward with that?
Trustee Donnersberger,
Aye.
Trustee Eck,
Aye.
Trustee Gazis,
Aye.
Trustee Saldana,
Aye.
4-0, motion carries.
Thank you. Then we do need a motion for item G, correct?
We do. So, and
Yes.
just so it's clear, and Gavin mentioned it, so the ordinance 2024-11, with the prior ordinance that passed 2024-10, that classification was reduced to 0, so 2024-11 creates the new license for that classification that's been applied for by Acadia. And then if that passes, then per code, the village president, who's the liquor commissioner, would then issue the license. So just so it's clear that it's sort of a multi-step process.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-11, the issuance of liquor license to Arcadia Restaurant Group Limited.
I'll second it.
Question on that, the role of the liquor commissioner is to respond to this favorable vote and then sign the license, is that?
Right, the village board creates the license. The village president, who's the liquor commissioner, issues the license.
Thank you.
Seeing there are no other questions, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Donnersberger,
Aye.
Trustee Eck,
Aye.
Trustee Gazis,
Aye.
Trustee Saldana,
Aye.
4-0, the motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item H. Can we have a motion?
I make a motion to put on the table for discussion the Heritage Center.
Second?
So, just to explain how we got here, the Public Works Committee met last week and discussed some health and safety concerns about the Heritage Center and asked that this be placed on the board agenda for discussion. And here it is. And just to give a little more background about health and safety, in May of 2023, our engineering firm, Strand Engineering, and our insurer both performed assessments of the Heritage Center. And I just want to share some of the comments from those assessments. So from the engineering report, they did a site review and spoke with staff. They identified some roof leaks, said that the basement frequently has standing water present, had various structural concerns and concerns about the safety of the furnace. Plumbing for the second floor was showing signs of leaking. The main electric distribution panel ground conductor was severely corroded. cloth wiring is still used within the space, which is a fire and shock hazard. Light fixtures in the kitchen and first floor restroom ceilings pose clearance hazards, and first floor restroom and kitchen receptacles are not protected by GFCI technology. They also noted that the back door and the main floor restroom, which is the only restroom for the space, are not ADA compliant. They noted foundation issues and the need for a concrete frost wall to be installed, and that the interior floor would need to be replaced. Again, standing water could lead to mold, mildew, musty air, and can damage anything stored directly on the floor. There's a need for waterproofing and an underdrain system with sump pump. And I mentioned the roof already. That was from the Strand report. And then from IRMA, our insurance provider. They did a fall protection hazard assessment and noted issues with the balcony access that needed to be repaired, and basement access. During the visit, it was noted that the handrail to the Heritage Center basement is too high and is in need of repair. They had some other questions about the stairs, issues about the stairs. The bottom step is in need of repair. The lighting in the Heritage Center basement is in need of repair. And so those are some of the concerns that I think the committee was speaking to. And we, as part of the Strand study, they gave very rough estimates of what it would take to repair all of the recommended repairs, and that cost was almost $300,000. And
I have a question.
yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering why we're taking this up separately from the overall study that I understood was being done to look at all of our facilities and then make recommendations. I mean, we all know how bad the Heritage Center is, but I'd like to know the universe and then give us time to take a look at how we want to
I'll
spread our
respond to
resources.
that a little bit. About a year ago, we had gotten an engineer's report that we paid, I think, around $75,000, which gave us some information in regards to the three main buildings for the village. One was the Village Hall here, the second was Public Works, and the third was the Heritage Center, and we'd established an order in which we wanted to look at them, and then we went into substantial staffing changes, and all of that got put aside for pretty close to 9 months to a year. And we've come back and started to respond to looking first at the village building here. In conversation with the village administrator, it was indicated that probably no change is going to be needed for village administration and police. We've asked for that in writing. We haven't gotten it in writing as yet. And so the committee's not in a position to make a recommendation in regards to the Village Hall. Second, in regards to the Public Works building, again, we got a verbal report indicating that pretty much the building is satisfactorily meeting the needs and will likely do so for the near future. We still need to get that in writing as well. The third item was to discuss the Heritage Center, which there was some discussion at the last planning and zoning meeting, although no vote was taken in regards to a specific direction. It's a good discussion to have because of the condition of the building, but forward by the committee. So at this point in time, I think it's relevant to talk about the Heritage Center, because there are certainly substantial costs in regards to that, and the usage is somewhat limited. But certainly one of the things that we did discuss at the meeting was what would be an alternative use for that particular plot of land. A park was a possibility, perhaps building a community center, perhaps the police facility is a possibility, but there were a number of items that were discussed, but there were no conclusions drawn and no recommendations made as to what they were. But that is, had been on the agenda for the Public Works Committee, and it, in my view, is not completed yet.
So I have a question. With all those things that you listed, is that a safety hazard? Should we close it down while we're looking at it? What to do with it?
I just want to include in the comments from Charlie that one of the reasons why we wanted to discuss the Heritage Center is because independent of what the needs are to not be feasible in the future for public service. We shouldn't have the public coming to that building if we cannot fix it. It is a hazard, it is a public health issue, a public safety issue. If we had a leaking roof right here and water on the floor, we wouldn't be forced to do our board meetings here. We would close this room immediately and move ourselves somewhere else. So when you have possibility of mold, the infrastructure issues in the building, and we as a body are in charge of the public health and public safety of the community, why are we allowing people to put themselves at risk every time they go in there? So I think that we have to take that issue completely separate of what the needs are for a community center or police or the staffers, et cetera. The building itself needs to be evaluated separately as a concern.
Here,
Mhm.
but I think.
That went to the board.
Yeah, I thought so. And I think I've subsequently resent it to the board.
Any other discussion? Any other comments?
Well, I mean, I hate to leave it hanging. If it's a hazard, I don't know, maybe your committee can come back next month and make a motion to at least close it down, or maybe we need to do that now.
Well, yeah, I think
Do that at the committee.
the Public Works Committee is a committee. It's not a legislative body. So the trustees need to come to conclusion what you want to do. We are not taking any action tonight. It's a discussion. So, Pat, I'm not sure if that would be appropriate to make a motion at this point, or
To make a motion on the closure? That if it is an imminent threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, then I think you as village president and/or Gavin as village administrator could direct that it be closed at least temporarily until such time as the village board could evaluate the permanent closure of it. But
And how do we determine that? Because like we inspect businesses and buildings in our area, and I mean, we need quite a bit of documentation before we can do something like that. Do we need the same documentation?
I think I would urge us to get an expert recommendation, and it seems like Strand has already done the work. So, I don't know if the question was asked of them back, when this report was done, should it be closed? But I think they're the subject matter experts, and they should.
I think that because the study was done so far behind, we can get an update, at least on visual situation. I mean, do we have standing water still? Do we have mold? Do we have situations like that? When I went to that building prior to me being here, I could smell the mold, and I couldn't stand it more than a couple of minutes. I had to leave the building. I don't think we cleaned it. I mean, Can we have an assessment done, like you said, by an expert, someone that can actually go and say, this is what's happening? But we also have our staffers that are supposed to be in charge of the building anyway, or not in charge, but maintain it. Can we get your input?
We can certainly get somebody involved, hire somebody to check the mold levels and so forth in the building. I'll discuss it with Gavin, and we'll come up with a plan.
So the direction I'm hearing from this discussion is that you would like us to do a further evaluation of the health and safety of the building, specifically looking at the question of a recommendation from experts on whether it needs to be closed immediately, whether we need to plan for a longer term plan for that, either repair, the estimates, the cost estimates in this study are very rough. There's a disclaimer, a whole section disclaimer of these are just rough estimates. These are not specific. So I've already been in touch with some municipal architecture and design firms that could come in and help us with evaluating the current state of the building and making recommendations for how it could be redesigned, reconfigured, and that would apply to all of our facilities. So as Charlie and Eileen both alluded to, there's a much larger discussion going on here too about all of our facilities and prioritizing. I would say part of the answer to your question of why prioritize the Heritage Center over the other two buildings, none of the concerns that came up were nearly to the level regarding health and safety of what was presented for the Heritage Center. And
If we've got a building that's not safe, then I would concur with Trustee Saldana and our attorney that then that building shouldn't remain open, and I would give a priority to making that determination as quickly as possible. The use of that building and the use of the site can be a separate question entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Much of this discussion has predated a lot of us, and we understand the political nature and the sensitivity of this issue, but reiterate what Trustees Saldana and Eck have said. We are jeopardizing ourselves, and we are jeopardizing our constituents and our residents by keeping that building open.
So let me,
And I would, I guess, Pat, not that it has to go on Amy, Joe, or Gavin, but what is proper for us to do at this point in this situation?
So I think we should get the answer to that question from the experts who we have already retained to review it, and if they need to dust off their file and take a look at it. But I think we need to look at the building as if, and so, sort of divorce ourselves from the use and look at it almost as if this was a private property in the village and it had this level of violation. Would we be sending a letter ordering that it be immediately red tagged or closed? And I think we have to look at it with that lens and sort of, as you alluded to, not with the politics of it, not with, the nostalgia or how people might look at the building, but look at it, based on the facts. And the facts are, as we know, stats don't lie, right? So if we get the engineer and the engineer says that it should be closed, then I think that conclusion, then, the question answers itself.
so is there some liability if we don't close it fast enough? I mean, it's our building, and if we want to close it, can we just close it? And at the same time, knowing that there might be some I don't think there's many people in the village vested in the Heritage Center, but I know there are some. We need to do some kind of a letter, either in the newsletter and the website or whatever, explaining what happened with it.
So the only comment I have about using what engineer we're using, I think we need an environmental engineering company that can do the air quality studies, and I'm sure Strand can find out who that is, or Thomas, but I think that, the air quality in there and the mold and mildew and all that, we did that a while ago. So if we can have the environmental studies done to see, I think that would be a first step.
Yes.
In the interim, between now and those studies, I guess that's kind of what, back to Pat, not to put it on Pat, but I don't know that this is an Amy Jo decision or a Gavin decision. So between now and the time we get the substantiating facts one way or the other, is there, what would be the appropriate procedure to temporarily limit the use or eliminate the use, stop the use of that facility due to health and safety concerns?
And if I can just piggyback on that, we already have some documentation, and we haven't done anything on it. Now that we're looking at it as a whole, as a group, are we obligated to do something? And if we don't and something happens, can we be sued?
Yes. The answer to all of those questions is yes. You know, whether or not there's defenses and immunities and all of that other thing, you know, that we could talk about that offline. But yeah, I think if we have a report and if there's something that's imminently dangerous and hazardous that is going to compromise the public health, safety, and welfare, I think we have to take a step. And again, this is a discussion item for tonight. I don't know that we have that answer tonight, but I think maybe the appropriate step would be to direct staff to get the answers to those questions as quickly as possible and then react accordingly.
I would like
I
to make
agree.
an official request that until we have those answers, because we don't know what the answers are gonna be, that the building be closed to the public until the environmental study is finished. Because if we find out that it's even worse than we expect, and staff has been there, I wouldn't be able to live with that, you know, knowing that they have been breathing mold because we were taking longer on doing the study. But, you know, I just want to be on the record that I would like to make sure that the building is not available to the public until it is deemed appropriate for them to go back in.
I agree.
And we can get that done quickly as possible, and we'll start with some calls, phone calls tomorrow.
A concurrence as on that item.
Is there concurrence on that item?
Yes.
Everybody's a thumbs up on that? Eileen, yes? Jim?
Yeah.
Okay.
And to clarify, it's a temporary closure until we have an actual answer
Right,
to our
because
question.
we're not taking a final action
Right.
tonight, right?
And it did come up from a couple of you, but would you be interested in hearing the usage statistics?
Why not?
So I received these from the library, or from the docents. For calendar year 2023, there were 383 visitors to the Heritage Center. There are 299 regular patrons of the library. Volunteer docents are 15. There are 12 substitute docents. The book collection total is 6,419. And those are spread among paperbacks, hardbacks, and children's books. There is one book club that meets monthly at the Heritage Center. Hopefully they've met in June already.
And they can move their meetings here.
Yes, and I was going to say that too. If need be, I didn't assume that you would give me this direction, but since you have, yes, we would make this space available for any book club that meets or any other meetings that need to happen that would normally have happened at the Heritage Center.
So do we need to take a roll call vote on that or not?
No, we do
No
not.
voting. Okay, so that's what we've discussed today, and that's going to be the final discussion right now. We will put it on the agenda for the next meeting, and our staff has direction as far as what we need to do for next steps.
And we'll prepare a report to report back to you on what the findings are for the next meeting.
Alrighty, moving on to old business. Is there any old business that needs to be? Alrighty, item number 7 is public comments. can we move to any public comments? Glenn, could you come up if you're first to the podium, please? Hold on. Your mic's not on, so I just want to make sure that the audience on Channel 6 can hear and the video can hear
you
your
hear me now?
comments, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're good. Glenn Mann, 6458 Black Hawk Trail. I was a board member starting in 2014 for one term. Did not continue because of illness. However, at that time, we had discussed in considerable detail the Heritage Center. And we were trying to find out actually why had it been purchased, did it have any historical significance, or any other factors that made it a reason to have continued. Because having seen it, the physical state of it, even at that time, we questioned it. Unfortunately, we had a split board, and it was, in fact, never proceeded with, and nothing else was done at that time. I'm glad to see at least now we're looking to shut it down temporarily, if nothing else. But the long and short of it is that the cost of renovation of it at that time was in excess of $100,000, which, based on the long-term lack of infrastructure maintenance that we had seen prior to that board, made no sense to spend that kind of money on something that had no historical significance. It did nothing to help the village, and it really can't support any kind of a conference or meetings other than a round table of a half dozen people maybe. And because of that, we had thought we could get rid of it. But at this point in time, I have to say that I cannot believe that this board would continue keeping this operational. I'm glad to hear it's temporarily shut. We need to remove it and turn it into a parkland. And when Wolf Road comes in, I understand they're going to be picking up frontage off of that area. And so that means that it's not going to be sellable land that we could look to build a home or other, even for that matter, for ourselves. We would not be able to build something. Alternatives, temporary. Small library, we have it here, and we could even extend this area out into the property and behind us to the east. Simply put, it makes no sense to keep the property, the cost of maintaining it, plus the liability issues involved, unless you want to spend well over $100,000, I'm sure. I can't see us doing that. And with that, thank you for listening, and I hope that this board carries through.
Thank you. Anybody other? Thank you.
I'd like to talk about the library at Heritage Center. My name is Sharon Kalinowski. I have been a library volunteer for 10 years. The director, Gene Sutherland, couldn't be here tonight. That's why I'm here to talk about the library. In my opinion, the building is not dangerous. There's some issues, yes. The library is a very important resource for our community. The village bought the building about 20 years ago. I'm not sure. They did upgrades like putting in new windows, alarm system, sprinklers. All of the books there were donated. I don't know how Mr. Morgan got the number of 6,000. I would think it's more than that. We've all worked very hard to keep this collection in good order. We've got great collections of popular authors. And we sort out and take out the older books and duplicates, and those go to recycling, which is a really good service for the people in the community. They can bring their old books and get rid of them locally. Let's see. You've already mentioned the number of volunteers we have. That was correct. We're open on the weekends. And I'd say, I estimated about 200 people have borrower cards there. And the average number I get per shift is about 5 people, so that's more than 50 people per month are coming in. We've got regular people who come in. There's a sign-in sheet, but not everybody uses that sign-in sheet. Some of them just come to drop off books and don't even sign in. So the numbers of people coming there are probably less than you think. Like I said, there's a bunch of regular people who come there. Some just come in just to sit and talk. Some come in to just read a book or borrow a puzzle. And a few of them check out lots of books, some just check out one or two at a time. A lot of people come in there from Acacia and Ashbrook, also some from Wilshire Green, Chestnut on the Green mostly, some from single-family homes. And it has also been used as a meeting place. I don't know what all groups are using it now, but I know Betty Sloan was using it, and sometimes the Indian Head Park Women's Club Board was using it. And there was another detailed engineering study done about 7 years ago when they knew there was things that needed to be fixed, and we don't know whatever happened with that, but I can tell you that the village hasn't done any improvements.
It's not on, no. Hold on one second, he's coming.
Okay, thank you. So the village hasn't done any work in there except for just basic cleaning over the past 10 years. And, they really needed a deep cleaning and maintenance to keep doing. That's why it accumulated so much to be, perhaps $300,000 worth of work. But the main point I want to make is we need a place for our library. We need a place to put the books. You can't just throw them away. I mean, we put so much work into this over the years. It would be a real tragedy to lose all that. We need our library a lot more than we need another gambling cafe or vape shop. I hope you would agree with that. And then also, you don't realize that some of the visitors are from nearby towns who stop in there to ask about the building's history and the area's history. We get at least a few every month who come in for that. And even a lot of our volunteers didn't even live in Indian Head Park. They lived in surrounding communities like Burr Ridge, Willowbrook, or even LaGrange Highlands. So I think if you were there, then you would see it does get used by the local residents, and we appreciate having a place close by where we can come to get our books and talk to people. Like I said, it would be a big shame if we lost our library permanently, and we need a place to put our books. So please keep that in consideration. And I don't feel unsafe in that building at all. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Corcoran. I'm at 6417 Apache Drive. I saw this was on the agenda, and I found an email that I wrote just about 7 years ago and talked about the knowing that there was a big bill coming for the Heritage Center, that it was going to cost a lot of money. And back at that time, I think shortly before that, there had been some type of referendum that my notes indicate was very strongly against investing anything more in the Heritage Center. So, here we are. It sounds like the bill's coming due. One question, too. I'm not sure, is it going to be closed? I'm not sure what was decided.
The
at least
decision right now is
temporarily.
temporarily closed until we get the data from the engineering firm,
Yeah.
subject matter experts.
Yeah, because, I'm no attorney, but I think we just set up a really good case for anybody that might have a problem there. We're aware of the issues. We've got experts telling us that, so we could find ourselves in a big problem. Lastly, and I included this in my note from 7 years ago, I have a tremendous respect for the people that operate that. A lot of people have contributed a lot of their time and money, I'm sure, or materials to try and upgrade the exterior, the landscaping. I wish there was an easier answer, but at the end of the day, I just don't think the village can afford this. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Laurie Davis, 6482 Apache. I totally agree with the comments tonight. We just can't afford that kind of money if it in fact is $300,000, and those figures were several years, so we're probably looking at well over 4 now. And I just feel it's a tremendous amount of money for very little utilization. Charming as it is, the reality is it needs a lot of money. So I defer to the board on this totally. I voted for all of you, including the two who aren't here tonight, because of your knowledge, your background, your financial responsibility. And I think it's just something we have to look at very closely and make a practical decision.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Hearing no other comments, can we please go on to reports, please? Trustee Gazis?
Yes, Planning and Zoning Commission did meet last Tuesday through the leadership of Andres, who did a phenomenal job, and Chairman Skovich. We did touch on and draw a structure for moving forward regarding building code, comprehensive plan, and those matters. So I think we got a pretty good framework to work in and take advantage of the very talented commissioners that we have on that Planning and Zoning Commission. And Andre's energy and leadership was very noticeable. Police Committee did also meet last Wednesday. I'll let Chief Walsh speak more on that. But other than that, Planning and Zoning will be meeting next month, first Tuesday of the month, 7 o'clock in this room. Correct. Date tentative. It might get pushed back, so check the website.
Trustee Donnersberger.
Thank you. Economic development, we haven't met in a while due to illness and people traveling, but we nonetheless continue to work on our two big projects, one of which is the Fall Fest. Last year it was Spring Fling, but now it's going to be the Fall Fest, so maybe like an Oktoberfest, and we're trying to decide where to have that. The other thing we're working on is getting the businesses together. We're working with both the Chamber and Innovative DuPage, which is out of the College of DuPage, they came and talked to our meeting, excuse me, and they're getting back to us in terms of what they can offer. But basically what they offer is training, and we're hoping that that will be a big draw for our businesses. Thank you.
Trustee Eck?
Thank you. Two committees, Finance, we met this week with the committee, and we're talking about best practices, and we're looking to put in order what we think are those items that need to be revised, modernized, and changed, and that's something that will command the attention of the committee for quite a while doing that. Also in Public Works, just to accent, we're looking at plans for street sewers, finishing up the pump house, which I think Joe's probably going to talk about here, as well as mentioned earlier, the review of the three buildings, the Village Hall, the Public Works Building, and the Heritage Center. And we had a meeting, we'll have meetings in the next month for both Finance and Public Works. Thank you.
Trustee Saldana?
No report.
Can we move on to department heads? Joe, would you like to go first? Thank you.
All right, I'd like to start out with the pump house update. Most of the piping work, if not all the piping work, is done on the inside. We are waiting on ComEd to shut the power down to the building so we can do the switchover with all the new electronic equipment that is on site. We have a date of 7/10 of this year to have them come out, but I spoke with the mayor when I got in the meeting, because I just found out about that date. That's we've been trying to get them to shut down for quite some time, so we're going to try and accelerate that date, see if we can get it done sooner. They're still able to do some of the work in there that they can do, but we would like to get this electric work done sooner than later, or else it's going to push our completion date back. One of the other items that they're going to be doing is our reservoir in the back. They need to remove some of the floats that are at the bottom of the tank. We can't drain the tank completely. They did take a couple of feet out of there to do some of the work they need to do, but we are actually going to have some divers go in to remove that. So that's coming up, I think, next week. Gavin mentioned about the bid opening, so I'll leave that one be. Some of the other things that have been going on in the village, we had some storm sewers in the area jetted, various locations that were causing us some issues. We signed a few guys up for some lockout training, tagout training. Staffing, William, our part-time guy, got a internship, so we lost him this week to that. We're happy for him though, moving forward, so that he can, follow his career. We did put an ad in the on the website for some seasonal help, so we're looking for somebody to fill that void. The Public Works Department is working with the Police Department. They have an office over at our Public Works building, and they also have an evidence cage on the upper level in the shop. It was brought to my attention that they would like to get the evidence locker in a climate-controlled area, so discussing with Larry, we talked it over, and we're just switching out the evidence cage to the office downstairs to be the evidence room, and then they're going to use all the files and everything they have in the other office, move that upstairs to the cage area. So working with them to get that done. We have our recycling event coming up on June 22nd at the Public Works Building, which is 11308 70th Place. It's for residents, so they'll be checking IDs for electronics, paints, and a shredding event, and an ice cream truck. I'm working to get the consumer confidence report ready for July. That'll be posted on our website, possibly mailers, but we'll definitely have it accessible for all residents. And we met with Thomas Engineering last week, and we're putting a meeting together with Rachel from Corrective Asphalt Materials this coming Monday, June 17th, to discuss rejuvenation options for pavement, and that kind of goes in conjunction with our road program that's coming up this year. And I'm putting together a surplus item list to present for the next board meeting. That's what I got.
Chief, would you do the honors next, please? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have given a police test. We've given 2 tests. We've had approximately 60 applicants. Out of those 60, 40 qualified. Over the last several days, we've interviewed all 40. Now, the commission put together an initial list. We got the initial list. We contacted all the applicants that are on the list. They have the ability within the next 10 days to either put in for, you only get 5 points, but it's either military, education, or you're currently a sworn officer. Once these are all submitted, then we'll come up with a final list. Then we'll start putting out offers for employment. So hopefully that's, we have a very good list. There's very good candidates, but we just want to get them before we lose them. We're going to be doing, well, I'll talk about mailbox thefts. There's been a lot of mailbox thefts in the area, not just here, but throughout the neighboring towns. Our detectives are now working with Burr Ridge and others to form like a task force. We have some persons of interest that we're starting to identify that we want to work a little bit, so I'll keep you posted on that. It's running rampant, not only here, everywhere, but we want to see if we can't put a lid on it. Neighborhood roll calls. We're starting what I used to call beat meetings. They call them neighborhood roll calls because we don't have beats here. So we're going to start tomorrow, 5 o'clock, in Timber Ridge Court. Some of the items we're going to talk about is rave alerts, Smart 911, which will replace Simplicity. People have to register for it, but it will give notifications to everybody in case there's an emergency or a weather hazard or anything like that. So we're going to get the word out through our website. We're going to be hitting the homeowners associations. We want to get as many people, if not everybody, signed up. But also being talked about will be the mailbox thefts and prevention. It's unfortunate that you can't leave your mail in your own mailbox, but if you can, if you're around, get it out as soon as you can, because the crew who's going on there, a lot of them are dope addicts, and they're just stealing whatever they can steal and see what they can get so they can get their next fix. So that's the problem. We're also going to talk about ruse burglaries, computer scams, peer support, National Night Out. National Night Out is August 6th. It's at 4 p.m. Depending on funding, we're either going to have a laser show or a movie, touch a truck, a petting zoo, various county departments and state departments, as many as we can get to help out. There'll be snow cones, music and activities for the kids. So it's a nice night. It's a great night. I've been involved with various ones throughout my career for the past 20 years, and they're nice. It's a nice night out. We're up to speed on training. We just got everybody trained in taser and OC spray, as well as first aid with the AEDs. We have another session coming up because some of the officers are going to be expired. It's a mandatory class, so we're going to get that done by the end of the month. Talking with Joe, I want to thank Public Works. They've really been helping us out. We had a file room. The evidence room was in an open cage, and it was just collecting dust. It wasn't a good use for it. We're going to move into a climate-controlled environment. We're going to move the old files upstairs. We're in the process of getting certifications signed so that we can destroy some of the evidence, some of the files. We have files that are from the early 1980s. Yeah, you don't have to keep them more than a year, so we're gladly going to get rid of them. So that's what's coming up as soon as we get permission to get rid of them. Collections, Eve has sent out notifications to people. We've collected over 14,000 to date. The rest of them, she's about approximately 200 that she's vetting because she doesn't want to send it to the collection company if we already collected it. So we're trying to determine. But those that we can't determine, we're to send to them anyway. And if they do say that they did pay, we'll have to work something out and try to see if we can locate how. And lastly, I didn't want to say this word, but the COPS grant. The COPS grant has been done and submitted, and hopefully, if we realize it'll enable us to get an elderly services officer. And that's what I got.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much, Chief. And maybe we have the clerk's report, Andres?
I have no report at this time.
All righty. Seeing that we would also, how about our village attorney?
No report, thank you.
Last but not least, our village administrator.
Thank you, President. First off, I want to say our IRMA is, again, our insurance provider. They provide our general liabilities, cybersecurity, and workers' compensation coverage. At the IRMA board meeting this week, we received recognition as one of a handful of communities that had 0 accidents in 2023. And that's good. We celebrated, and that's thanks to our professional staff and the training and safety audits that we've taken advantage of that IRMA offers. We had a successful closing, as I mentioned earlier, on our $1.5 million in debt certificates that were sold. That closing took place on May 24th, and the proceeds from that will help us pay for the pump house construction project. When the initial planning for that project was taking place, the thought was we would get an IEPA loan. We didn't get that, so this money will make up for that. We'll be able to reimburse ourselves for costs back to October of 2023, so that comes down to the accounting for the funds. The debt certificates will cover about 3/4 of the total cost for the project. Met recently with Pleasantdale Park District, looking for ways to collaborate with them, specifically in service to seniors in the community. We also talked about the fireworks display, and we will be able to sponsor at a $500 contribution to the fireworks display. We've also reached out to the township. Amy Jo reached out to the township about providing transportation for groups of seniors from Indian Head Park to get to the Pleasantdale Park District for their annual fireworks display. The Chief Walsh hit on simplicity, and we're going to be phasing out that as a communications tool. We've had some problems recently with being able to access it from our end. We've gotten questions from residents about it not working, and we just haven't been real satisfied with it. And in addition to that, it duplicates the newsflash feature that we already pay for through our website. So there's no reason to go to the extra work to also post things on Simplicity. We will be able to, all the folks who are signed up for Simplicity and already receiving alerts, that way we can transfer those over to Newsflash. They can always opt out if they want to. This is going to be more efficient for us. It'll be more efficient for residents, and residents won't have to download an app in order to get the messages. They can be alerted through those either by phone or by text. And then the chief mentioned the Cook County 911 rave system, which will send out those. That'll be restricted to just emergency notices, you know, street closures, and police notices and things of that sort. Wanted to let everyone know that we were notified by Countryside that they will be increasing water rates in the rate that the village pays per 1,000 gallons in mid-July. So we're going to be doing an analysis of our rates and the costs that we pass on to our water customers, Indian Head Park water customers, and we'll have a recommendation for the Finance Committee and the board in July. Some other upcoming initiatives that we'll be taking, we're going to be developing a communication strategy, meeting in a couple of weeks with a communications professional who works with a lot of municipalities around the state, just to brainstorm some ideas for developing a vibrant communications, consistent, professional messaging from the village so that our residents are informed and know everything that's going on, and hopefully to build up a little of what the aggregation consultant referred to as civic pride, just so it kind of help with our identity as an organization at the village, and as well as get pertinent information out in a timely and relevant fashion. I'm not looking to create a big, expensive, fancy program, just something that's the right size for Indian Head Park. Cybersecurity planning is top of mind right now for me, especially as we bring the pump house back online, and as well as all staff. It's important to all of us, but we'll be working with our IT provider to make sure that we have thought of all contingencies, and we have business continuation plans, and we have plans for how to communicate if there is an infiltration of our system. So we're going to be planning that all out, and I'll bring that to the board. And finally, we've talked a lot about the IDOT land at Wolf and Joliet. We're continuing to hunt for how we can get IDOT to allow the village to use that space. We have in mind a passive park or some kind of green feature, just something a lot cleaner and more presentable for one of the main entrances to our village. And along with that, we're looking at how we can tie that to the Wolf Road landscaping project that the board's already started setting aside funds for. But going a step beyond just hoping that we can make it pretty, we're starting to talk with landscape landscape consultants, just to get a sense of the scope of a project like that and a real rough ballpark estimate of a cost to really design the landscape post construction of Wolf Road, whatever the construction's going to look like. And this goes hand in hand with all the discussions we've been having about what Wolf Road is going to look like. And Amy Jo mentioned the CAC meetings coming up in July and the public meeting in August. Those, we're not taking into consideration the landscaping that will happen after that without thinking about what those alternatives are going to look like. But those are still in development and will be presented in July and August. And so with those two projects are opportunities in mind, Wolf Road and the IDOT land. We're also looking at how those connect to the Blackhawk Park, Sacagawea Park, Arrowhead Point, and how that all goes together. So again, those are discussions that right now we're not talking about spending any money on any of those. We're just looking at what some ideas maybe from some design perspectives and trying to get a idea of how much money we need to be looking at, and that will inform the capital plan that we're developing. And that goes back to the road program, it goes to the facilities discussion, it goes to sewer, water, everything will be included in that capital improvement plan. And that we'll bring to the Public Works Committee and the Finance Committee and to the full board. So last, Amy Jo talked about a lot of the grants that we've gotten, but just to give a little more specifics, the grant of $25,000 from the Lyons Township Mental Health Commission will go to provide educational sessions for seniors to promote safety, overall well-being, and mental health awareness. The commission also granted our partners at Aging Care Connections funds to host congregate meals here. We're going to start here at Village Hall, but one idea we've been thinking about is trying to find places around the community to host those. And we'll also be participating in the Lyons Township Summer Employment Program, as well as we've requested funding for National Night Out from Lyons Township. Amy Jo mentioned CMAP approved a technical assistance grant to develop a pavement management plan. That again will help as we develop the capital improvement plan. Energy efficiency grants from ComEd. We're in the process of pursuing. We've moved on to the next stage into grants or project applications for the Illinois Emergency Management Agency. These are funds that would come from the federal government, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, but IEMA, the state version of FEMA, is putting together a portfolio of projects to submit. Two of ours have gotten to the next stage. One would be stormwater planning for Old Town in 45 acres to assess the risk and identify potential solutions there. And if we get that and we do the study and we get some ideas of potential solutions, we can then go out and seek funding for those. And then the other one is updating our building and property maintenance codes. And that is a priority for FEMA, is having communities update those codes. So we've asked for some financial support for that. Hopefully we will get that. And then the chief mentioned the COPS grant. We're also going to be applying for an open space land acquisition and development grant, OSLAD grant for Kelly's playground at Sacagawea Park. That grant is due in September. So that's my grant report and my full report.
Great, thank you. Did I forget anybody's report at this point? I think we're all set. So can we please, we do not need a closed session this evening, so can we have a motion for adjournment?
Make a motion to adjourn?
And second? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Oh,
Voice
voice vote. All in favor? Opposed? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.